Hello, I'm Father Joe Roesch of the Marian Fathers of the Immaculate Conception. Thank you for joining me as we continue with our year-long journey, reading the diary of St. Maria Faustina Kowalska from beginning to end. Today we take up from where we left off, beginning with diary entry number 24. One day, just as I had awakened, when I was putting myself in the presence of God, I was suddenly overwhelmed by despair. Complete darkness in the soul. I fought as best I could till noon. In the afternoon, truly deadly fears began to seize me. My physical strength began to leave me. I went quickly to my cell, fell on my knees before the crucifix, and began to cry out for mercy. But Jesus did not hear my cries. I felt my physical strength leave me completely. I fell to the ground, despair flooding my whole soul. I suffered terrible tortures in no way different from the torments of hell. I was in this state for 3/4 of an hour. I wanted to go and see the directress, but was too weak. I wanted to shout, but I had no voice. Fortunately, one of the sisters, another novice, Sister Placida Putira, came into my cell. Finding me in such a strange condition, she immediately told the directress about it. Mother came at once. As soon as she entered the cell, she said, "In the name of holy obedience, get up from the ground." Immediately some force raised me up from the ground, and I stood up, close to the dear Mother Directress. With kindly words, she began to explain to me that this was a trial sent to me by God, saying, "Have great confidence. God is always our Father, even when he sends us trials." I returned to my duties as if I had come out from the tomb, my senses saturated with what my soul had experienced. During the evening service, my soul began to agonize again in a terrible darkness. I felt that I was in the power of the just God and that I was the object of his indignation. During these terrible moments, I said to God, "Jesus, who in the Gospel compare yourself to a most tender mother, I trust in your words because you are truth and life. In spite of everything, Jesus, I trust in you, in the face of every interior sentiment which sets itself against hope. Do what you want with me. I will never leave you, because you are the source of my life." Only one who has lived through similar moments can understand how terrible is this torment of the soul. During the night, the Mother of God visited me, holding the infant Jesus in her arms. My soul was filled with joy, and I said, "Mary, my mother, do you know how terribly I suffer?" And the Mother of God answered me, "I know how much you suffer, but do not be afraid. I share with you your suffering, and I shall always do so." She smiled warmly and disappeared. At once, strength and a great courage sprang up anew in my soul, but that lasted only one day. It seemed as though hell had conspired against me. A terrible hatred began to break out in my soul, a hatred for all that is holy and divine. It seemed to me that these spiritual torments would be my lot for the rest of my life. I turned to the Blessed Sacrament and said to Jesus, "Jesus, my spouse, do you not see that my soul is dying because of its longing for you? How can you hide yourself from a heart that loves you so sincerely? Forgive me, Jesus. May your holy will be done in me. I will suffer silently like a dove, without complaining. I will not allow my heart even one single cry of sorrowful complaint." End of the novitiate. The suffering does not diminish. Physical weakness dispenses me from all community spiritual exercises. That is to say, they are replaced by brief ejaculatory prayers. Good Friday, April 16th, 1928. Jesus catches up my heart into the very flame of his love. This was during the evening adoration. All of a sudden the divine presence invaded me, and I forgot everything else. Jesus gave me to understand how much he had suffered for me. This lasted a very short time. An intense yearning, a longing to love God. First vows. First Profession of Temporary Vows, April 30th, 1928. An ardent desire to empty myself for God by an active love, but a love that would be imperceptible even to the sisters closest to me. However, even after the vows, darkness continued to reign in my soul for almost a half year. Once, when I was praying, Jesus pervaded all my soul. Darkness melted away, and I heard these words within me: "You are my joy. You are my heart's delight." From that moment, I felt the most holy Trinity in my heart, that is to say, within myself. I felt that I was inundated with divine light. Since then, my soul has been in intimate communion with God, like a child with its beloved Father. In some ways, we can all identify with the suffering of St. Faustina. We've all been tempted to feel far from God, that God doesn't love us, or that He has abandoned us. But few of us will have to suffer to the degree that St. Faustina suffered. We can say that she was a victim soul, a chosen soul to suffer like Christ on the cross. It's comforting for us to know that Mary suffers with us, just as she did at the foot of the cross of her Son. We remember the story of Mother Teresa of Calcutta. Apparently for 50 years, she had to endure not feeling the presence of God. She persevered through all those dry years in faith, in her prayer life, and in her apostolic work. Even after she made her first vows, St. Faustina suffered for another 6 months. Finally, she received the consolation of the presence of God. The joy of the Holy Trinity filled her heart. It's good for us to remember the sufferings of this life are limited. Being with God in heaven will last forever.